Hey everybody, welcome back. We've got a little bit of a bonus episode here for you. Our regularly scheduled episode with Emmett and I this week just went up today. Zack put the magic touch on it, got it all edited, so we're good to go there. And now I figured Zack and I could jump on and round up a couple of news stories that broke throughout the week with maybe some of the non-revenue sports, some other things around campus that have came out that were exciting to talk about, but didn't make the main football preview. So, Zack, welcome. How you doing?
Good. Just excited to do a little bit of an extra video. I know I couldn't show up to your guys' preview episode. You guys did a great job, so I'm excited to talk a little bit about some other sports that we have some exciting news outside of just football and basketball. And we love, of course, talking about those sports, but sometimes we have to give love to other sports around Michigan State as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of Spartan athletics making some news this week. So let's start with soccer, the soccer programs. Zach and I are both big soccer fans, so that's good. Women's soccer now nationally ranked in the top 5, I believe. And then some of the power rankings actually have them ranked as the number 1 team in the country. So good to see women's soccer getting some love. They've been killing it, wrapping up a couple wins, I believe, last week. So number 5 overall in the country. The men's team, I know Brandon Munson just made SportsCenter's top 10 with a crazy save, goal line bicycle kick save. Ended up being as the number 1 overall play the other day on SportsCenter, and they're shining well. They're ranked and doing well. Any soccer thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, so it's just an exciting time in MSU Hacker for both men's and women's. But let's really talk about this women's team. It's exactly where they are because think about it. 4 years ago, this is 4 years ago for Jeff Hassler going into this year. You really look at what Michigan State was. They were not a program that was competing for very much of anything, to be completely honest with you. Before Jeff Hassler came, the first time going into a Big Ten tournament was 2011. That was like 10 years, so it wasn't really a program that people were kind of like, hey, watch out for Michigan State women's soccer. But this is where I want to give credit to Alan Haller. One thing that he's done extremely well, and I think a lot of people should talk about this more, is that he's done a really good job of hiring coaches. And a lot of people say like Jonathan Smith, Adam Nightingale, all these other coaches, but you really look at some of these other programs that he's done a great job. Like look at volleyball. Volleyball is doing pretty well this year. Kind of started to get them on the right track here. But let's really focus on women's soccer because one thing about Jeff Hassler is that he's a winner. He just wins wherever he goes. He coached at GVSU for 7 years, won 3 national championships, went to the national championship 5 times, and only lost 2 times in the GLIAC as the head coach of GVSU women's soccer. So one thing, he's a winner, but also another thing, guess what? He's a program builder, and that's exactly what he's done with this team. The last 2 years they've gone to the Big Ten tournament. Last 2 years they went to the NCAA tournament as well. They hosted a game last year at home as well, which was, I think, the first time in a really long time. This women's program just dominates when they play. They're really impressive. They did have a couple of ties this year, but outside of that, they haven't lost a single game. Their opening game was a 2-1 win over Notre Dame, where they looked pretty good. Start out Big Ten play with a 5-0, I believe, win over Maryland, where they actually looked absolutely dominant. They play Nebraska coming up, so just going to have to watch out there. But this women's program is just on the national stage, and it's really fun to watch. But let's talk about the men's as well. The men's, while you look at the record, not great overall record-wise, but I think this team is a lot more talented than the record says that they are, and it's led by Damon Rensing. He's been the head coach there for, I think this is his 16th or 17th year leading the program. One nice thing with this team, though, is even though the record isn't great, they did get a tie with the top 25 team in the country in SIUE. They did get a few tough losses. They lost to, sadly, Oregon State, the number 5 team in the country, only 1-2. So So they did end up losing to them. They've lost a couple other games that maybe they shouldn't have lost. But coming off of a 1-0 win over Washington, which of course is now in the Big Ten, and Chris, you were talking about it as well. The big save that gave MSU honestly the win. It was just an incredible save by Brandon Munson. And then even after that, you look at this game, you have Zack Kelly making a PK save as well. Another great save after that, like with like a minute or two left to go. So huge, hopefully momentum builder for this men's soccer team. Just really fun watching both of these teams be really competitive. One is kind of getting the results that they should. They're winning. They're being very competitive. They're being dominant. The other one, maybe not getting the results that they exactly want, but still a fun product to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And they, I know, have a tough test coming up. I believe tomorrow they open up their road schedule. They play at Penn State tomorrow for the first Big Ten road game, so that could be a tougher match. But yeah, men's soccer's been looking decent. Hopefully the results follow a little bit more, but yeah, it's good to see both the soccer teams really having some buzz created around them and getting some national recognition. Another revenue sport that we don't get to talk about a ton. I just want to plug real quick. Tennis, the tennis program, we saw them make a good run in the NCAAs last year. I wanted to shout out. It was Ozan Barris. It had some shout outs we had talked about before. He's going to go into the season ranked number 1, I believe, in singles. And then I always mispronounce his name, but Thanastelis, I believe, Artatelis, our other big gun in the men's tennis. He was selected for Greece's Davis Cup team and actually just got to play in their Davis Cup tie. And he had a singles match last weekend against Novak Djokovic, who anybody who follows tennis will eventually probably go down as one of the number 1, 2, 3 tennis players of all time at most. So fortunately, didn't get the results that you would want, but it's Novak Djokovic, so understandable. So kind of a cool thing he gets to experience competing for Greece and playing on some big major scale tennis. So congrats to them. I'm excited to see what they'll do this year. They have a good shot to be very successful this season. So moving on, we had some other news come out this week. The name Ishbia obviously rings pretty well within MSU lore, but not Matt Ishbia, but Justin Ishbia, his brother, announced this week that he and his family are donating $10 million to Michigan State Athletics. I believe it was $1.5 million going towards the school's baseball program, which he is a former player. And then I know they announced that $7 million of it will be allocated to the Michigan State Men's Basketball Excellent Fund that Tom Izzo runs, or is in charge of, I guess I should say. So nice to see him giving a little bit of money to the basketball program too, obviously with the Ishbia connections to the basketball program, but showing some love for the baseball program, maybe getting some stadium upgrades, it sounds like, which is needed. So that's exciting to hear. And Zach, I know you've had the chance to talk with before and interview Coach Boss. What's that going to do for the program? I know that's something that could go quite a ways.
Absolutely. And before I kind of get into baseball real quick, I just want to say that tennis, if you're looking for a team in the country that has the best names in the country, I think Michigan State is probably number one. Like the names are elite at Michigan State tennis, and they're elite players as well. But let's talk about baseball a little bit, because I think baseball, if you really look at a sport that maybe gets some talk, but maybe some like more negative talk than positive talk, it's baseball. Honestly, it's I've seen some discussions on Coach Boss. I got the opportunity to talk with him, to interview him on the Michigan Sports Podcast. Great guy. Honestly, he's one of the most kind of down-to-earth kind of guys you can really think about. One thing, he really cares about these players. And I know some people are going to hear that and say, well, yeah, but like the results really matter. And they do. And they honestly do. Results do matter. And last year was a better season for Michigan State baseball. But of course, it's much more than just the results. It's about getting these guys drafted. It's about getting these guys to be great adults, all that kind of stuff. So that stuff really plays into it. But I really do think that this money, one, is going to really help this program. And I was kind of interested to see where Michigan State would go because with everything that's going on in college athletics right now, because it was just recently announced that scholarships for sports are going to go up. Alan Haller talked about that he's never going to cut a sport, or like the time he would do it, he would leave, he would be done. I honestly believe that it would shock me if Michigan State cut a sport, but with the whole scholarships going up, I would be really interested to see what Michigan State would do with their different sports, how much time, how much effort, how much resources they would put in to a specific sport. And you're talking about sports like baseball, wrestling, volleyball, soccer. So I think this, and I know it's not directly from Michigan State, it's from the Ishbia family, but $1.5 million is not a small amount of money. And you see Michigan State investing in other sports as well, investing in volleyball too, but it's really awesome seeing this amount of money come to Michigan State. It sounds like they're going to be changing the field's name to Jeff Ishbia Field, retiring the John Cobbs Field, according to Coach Boss. It does seem like they want to kind of commemorate him a little bit, keep his name alive. He's been kind of a big name around the baseball program for a really long time. So I think his name's going to kind of continue to be around. But I think this money is really going to be, like what you're talking about, Chris, really going to go improve the renovations at Michigan State. One thing that is really well known is that the baseball fields, the softball fields flood all the time. So that kind of affects how much they're able to use it. Don't necessarily know if that's what the money's going to, but you're going to really want to invest in this program. And of course, you're going to want NIL as well, scholarships too. So I'm really interested to see what this money goes to. It doesn't really seem like they know exactly right now what it's going to go to. But if I had $1.5 million, I would have a lot of ideas. And it sounds like Coach Boss has a lot of ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. The tricky part about starting baseball in the spring in Michigan, you just don't know what the weather's going to do and cooperate. And unfortunately, the baseball program's kind of been on the short end of the stick on that in the past few years, where flooding, rains, heavy, even snow melting has affected their ability to schedule some early season home games and do some things at home. So hopefully if you allocate some of that money to, field upgrades or drainage upgrades, whatever needs to be done, you can get that, maybe that solution remedied and start getting more events at the start of the season when kids are still on campus, when people are still, not away for the summer, and then maybe just generate a little bit more revenue. So I like it. That's going to be good. I obviously like hearing that Tom Izzo will have a little bit more money to allocate to the basketball program too. I know that kind of generates a lot of its own money and doesn't necessarily always need a boost, but in the ever-changing NIL world, I know Zack and I kind of joked we had a high-profile recruit on campus last weekend, and then all of a sudden this news drops. It's at the end of the day even nice to know that for prospective recruits that we have donors that are still willing to ante up and give some money if things are needed. So always good to have that in the back of mind of recruits. So excited to hear. Thanks again to the Ishbia family, Justin and his wife and his family. Justin and Kristen were very excited to give that. And I know obviously Matt, with what he's done to the MSU athletic program, has been pick your adjective. It's been amazing, but it's nice to see more and more money coming in when it's needed, so we can make the upgrades and try to stay competitive from a facility and NIL standpoint. So, hockey season kicks off here in a few weeks. I don't have a lot about that. I promise you guys we will do more when hockey season is primed. I got some fun ideas in mind. Schedule was released. We had already talked about that. If you follow me on Twitter at Hockey Newman, you'll see me tweeting about it all the time. Exciting stuff this season planned. Obviously, a lot of anticipation after last season's falling just a little short of national championship expectations, but should be exciting to see what they've got. And the game at Wrigley against Wisconsin will be a lot of fun, hopefully. So that's, I think, all we had for the other random sports and random news breaking. Sorry for the non-revenue sports. Was there anything else you needed to add with that, Zach, before we close everything out?
Just really excited, like you said, excited for hockey sold out in I believe almost minutes, especially
Not
the
long.
student sections, the Munsters I believe sold out within like 2 or 3 minutes, which is just great. One of the coolest student sections at Michigan State. If you haven't gotten the opportunity to go to any hockey games, but yeah, just excited to see what these two soccer programs do. Excited to see what Michigan State baseball does with this money. Hockey's coming up, and then Michigan State. I know you guys talked a lot about Michigan State against Boston College. I thought you guys did a great job previewing that. Just excited to see what Michigan State looks like in that game. Will Aiden Childs be able to take care of the ball? What is Michigan State going to look like against Thomas Castellanos? Are they going to be able to prevent him from making big plays? And that's one thing that he didn't necessarily do exactly late against Missouri, but that doesn't mean he has the capabilities of doing that. So I think that's going to be a key factor in this. And of course, you guys talked about the red bandana game. Like, in my opinion, one of the coolest traditions in college football. It's going to be a really cool moment for Michigan State to be a part of that. And I'm just excited for the football game on Saturday, just to see where Michigan State's at, because we've seen them against teams like Prairie View A&M. We've seen them against teams like FAU, probably not great teams. We've seen them against Maryland, which I think Maryland, decent team, but I think this weekend is going to be an interesting one, especially to see what happens between both of these teams, because you saw what Boston College did against Florida State. They absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. You have Bill O'Brien, that is a really good college head coach, not a good NFL head coach. We see college coaches go to the NFL, like Nick Saban, do absolutely awful and then come back and dominate college football. You don't really see a lot of college coaches that go to the NFL that are really good in the NFL. So I think Bill O'Brien's going to have this team ready. Jonathan Smith's going to have this team ready. It's going to be a night game. You're going to have to wait all day to watch this go on. So it's going to be, that's probably my biggest thing, is like, why are we going to have to wait all day for this game? I honestly don't know, but I think that just makes it so much more exciting and going to be a kind of the pattern that Michigan State has in these next 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the level of competition just keeps rising and rising. So we're getting into the meat of the schedule, and we'll see where we're at. I know Emmett obviously couldn't make it for this little recording. He is currently en route to Boston. Should be arriving hopefully anytime now. We're recording this Thursday at about 6 o'clock, so he's getting all set up. Hopefully this is going to air for you guys before the Boston College game, I believe, on Saturday. We've got another bonus episode with a special guest that is slated to air tomorrow, which would be Friday. So main episode Thursday, bonus Boston College episode with special guest Friday. Zach and I's episode you're watching now, hopefully Saturday, and then we'll be back on a semi-normal schedule next week. We may have something in store for you to get ready for Coach D'Antonio's retirement ceremony. One thing Emmett did want to say, him and I forgot to do score predictions and touchdown predictions. He did phone his in per se, so Emmett believes the game is going to be 28-21 Boston College. His first time touchdown, or first score of the game, I guess, would be Aiden Childs on a rushing touchdown. That's Emmett's. For me, I think I'll do, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to go 31-28 Boston College. I think it's going to be close. I'll leave Jack Velling for you, and I will take, give me, surprise long shot. Antonio Gates will be the first touchdown scorer. Antonio Gates Jr. will be the first touchdown scorer off we'll go 20-yard post, we'll call it. We'll get specific, see what happens. So either way, I'm excited. Emmett's going to be bringing us some red bandana merch back. I'm pretty pumped. So Zach, what do you think for your score?
Yeah, I'm kind of the similar wavelength that you guys are on. I think it's more like 28-24. Boston College wins this game. Going to, of course, have to go with Jack Belling. I'm going to pick a week where I don't do Jack Belling, and then he's going to do it, and then I'm just going to regret it at this point. It's honestly going to probably become a bit at this point with my predictions. But maybe next week I'll just change it up, and then he'll do it, and then I'll just say, hey, maybe that's the reason why he scores his first touchdown at Michigan State. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's this week. Would love to see Jack Belling in that end zone.
Yes, same. He looked a lot. I don't want to say better because he's looked good, but he definitely, you could see his production and confidence increasing in the offense last week. So hopefully that carries over. But I think that's all we got for this little mini episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Follow us on all socials and everything. Like we always say, we appreciate the views. We're starting to grow ever so steadily. So we appreciate any shares, likes, follows, retweets, whatever you want to call them. Make sure to check out Emmett's Twitter X. It's Twitter. I will always call it Twitter. Make sure to call or follow Emmett's Twitter page, as he will have some good content from Boston this weekend. And then, of course, we'll update you with any post-game stuff he has as soon as we get it. So with that, everybody have a good weekend. Get excited for the Red Bandana game, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Go Green.
White.